Hey, and welcome to the highlights of episode number 49 with Lorna Jane. Some of my favorite parts of this episode were when Lorna shares the biggest thing she has struggled with all her life that literally brought her to tears. I love her tips on how she overcomes fear in her daily life and how she moved through some of the most challenging times in her business, like having customs come to your office, take your computers, and threaten to shut you down. But this is only a smidge of the goodness, inspiration, and wisdom you get in the full episode. So to listen to the full podcast and to get all the info in the show notes, head to melissaambrosini.com/49 right now. Lorna, it is so great to have you here. I am so excited for our conversation today. But before we dive in, can you please tell us what you had for breakfast this morning?
Oh my goodness, breakfast. I had a smoothie. It was, it did have a little bit of coffee in because it is Friday. It was just coffee, banana, almond milk, ice, some collagen, and protein powder.
Can you tell us about your journey and how you got to being this unstoppable powerhouse that you are today?
Well, 28 years ago, I was a fitness instructor that just couldn't find any decent activewear. I mean, at the time, there was just brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, and they were pretty much male-dominated brands, and any sort of female offering was just male shapes in pink, in a female color. So I started my business just by finding that I needed something for myself. I just made a newspaper pattern. I went to Lincraft at the time and bought some Lycra, and I just made my own outfit. And because I was an instructor, wearing these new outfits just got so noticed. And I just couldn't believe that people were asking me, where did I get it from? Would I make something for them as well? And so really starting this business was an accident. I was just making something that I wanted, and then the demand was created because people got to see it.
What are the fears that you have had to overcome, and how do you do it with as much ease and grace as it looks like you do?
You know what? I think public perception is so far from the truth most of the time because, I don't live in fear. I recognize it for what it is. I know that most of my fears, if they're not life-threatening, are just stories that I create in my head about things that possibly could happen, But I think when you're trying to break new ground and do new things and be a thought leader in what you do, you have to accept that fear is part of it. Like if I'm not a little bit anxious about something or questioning whether it's something I should do, then to me, I'm not moving forward. I don't like this sitting in your comfort zone type feeling. And maybe that's something that I've gained over the years and getting used to, because I do believe that what you do every day prepares you for what you're going to do in the future. And yeah, I have lots of fears, but I don't run from them. I accept, why am I anxious about this? What is the story I'm creating in my head? And then I think about the very worst possibility. And then I come up with a plan to overcome that if it happens. You can take it back to the very early days, quitting your day job, what is the worst thing that can happen? Well, it doesn't work and I can't pay my mortgage, so you just plan ahead. And while you have your day job, you save some more money so that if it is a little bit slow in the beginning, you have some extra funds. And, worst case scenario, it doesn't work. You can always go back to doing what you're already doing. So, of course, you don't want that to happen. But, I feel that living with your fear is a way to move forward in your life. And when you overcome them and you most of the time realize that they're not as bad as you ever thought they would be, I have such a great imagination. It's such a great feeling. And it's those moments when you've had to battle with something and come through the other end that are the celebrations and the turning points in your life.
Can you take us back to a time when you thought, holy crap, we aren't going to make this, or it was a very dark time where you couldn't see the light? Because I think we can learn a lot from hearing these stories. So can you take us back to one of those times?
cut a long story short, we weren't paying enough customs. So I think it was just a regular check. Customs asked for our documents. We sent them over. And before we knew it, it was like a squad team, I don't know what you call it, but a SWAT team came to our head office, closed us all down, took all our computers.
Oh my
and made us feel like
gosh.
criminals. I know, it was the worst day, well, one of the worst days of my life. And they were threatening jail term because we hadn't complied. And it was an honest mistake, which I am glad came out, and we didn't go to jail, but we had to pay a huge fine because, it's okay to make an honest mistake, but you have a responsibility to know what you're doing. And so I think the duty that we hadn't paid was $750,000 and the fine was $450,000, and we had to pay it in 12 months. They were tough times.
My gosh.
And that was so tough. And, we didn't go to the bank. We just traded and paid and lived on noodles. And a lot of people, when things like that happen in their life, would say, oh, I'm just going to give up. Like, we could have gone bankrupt. We wouldn't have had to pay those things, But even during those times, I didn't think that we were a failure. I thought we made a bad decision. We didn't find out exactly what we should be doing. We went by what people told us. We won't be doing that again, and we were more determined to put that aside, trade through, pay our fines, do the right thing, and prove that we were better at business than we had been in the past.
Do you allow yourself to feel really peed off? Like, do you allow yourself to get angry and to get peed off and then go, right, okay, cool. What are we going to do about it? Because I know a lot of people, they sit in that anger or that frustration or that disappointment, and that lingers for maybe like a day or weeks or months. But I'm curious to know, do you allow yourself to feel that and then do you just move on? Like, how does that process unfold for you?
I definitely allow myself to feel it, but it's usually for a short moment. But that's something that I use with my team. So I really love that question because it's something, when something goes wrong or there's a bad decision made, I will sit the people involved down in a room or in the store or wherever we are, and we'll talk about what happened. And I will just say to them, okay, now let's just feel that. And I love the power of a pause. So then we pause and we sit and we all feel it. We feel how disappointed we are. We feel how hurt we are that something happened. And then I say, okay, we never want to feel that again. And we move on.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your self-love journey and how that's evolved over the years for you?
I've always had this confidence, and I've never really questioned who I am, and it's always been really clear to me where I want to go with my life. And it was only recently that I had a lapse in this. And this was, and most people have probably heard about it, especially in Australia. I started getting attacked by the media. We have this thing in Australia called tall poppy syndrome. And if you get too good or too successful, then people try to find little dents in your armor, things that show that you're not the person that you say you are and things like that. And I didn't even think I was big enough for that to happen to me, but suddenly it started happening. I'd launched my book Inspired, and I was doing a tour with business chicks across Australia. Social media was really, really strong. I was coming up as, one of the most top rated in Australia at that time. And then the media just started, and they started saying things about my brand and my message to the world that was completely against everything I believed in. And it was really difficult for me. And if you know me personally, I'm the sort of person that if I have any sort of ill feeling or I feel like there's a little bit of tension or I want to address something with someone, it has to happen straight away. Like I'd say, hey, if it was you and me, Melissa, I'd say, hey, Melissa, can I come over? Let's have a smoothie. I just want to talk to you about something. And I'd just say, is everything okay with us? And we'd talk it through and we'd all feel good. I'd hate to have things hanging around, if I'm feeling like the energy's not right. So for the media to be going out to the world, because that's what it is these days, and saying all these things about me and suggesting things about my life and who I am and what my business is, without letting me be part of the conversation, it broke my heart. I just did not know what to do. I thought anything that I say is going to look like I'm just defending myself or trying to hide something else, and I just broke down, had the big cry, didn't do the dance, which I should have, and I just closed in. Like, you can't imagine, like, well, I'm sure some people can, they've had it themselves, but I had media at my front door, at my office, everywhere I went, they were trying to get hold of me, you know, and it wasn't the nice sort of media that you would want to attract. So I just pulled down all the doors, closed the hatchets, that was it. I just wasn't going to speak to anyone. And I did that for 2 years. I just did not want to be in the public eye because I was scared of them asking me a question and then me not saying the right thing and it then turning into another story that was completely untrue about my brand. And it really played with my self-love and self-confidence. And I did ask the question, did I want to do this? Because everything that I had built over the last 26 years I felt like had suddenly unraveled until I realized that I just had to keep living my life the way I lived my life and prove them wrong. I thought, there's nothing I can say. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. And there's so many people that love and support our brand. I'm going to do this for them and I'm just going to work through it, which I did. And we've come out the other end, which is fantastic.
So what are some of the personal work or what are some of the tools that you have used to help with your self-love? Like, was there anything in particular?
Very first thing I did was say, I need to live my life according to what I want to do. Like, I need to stop right now and decide, what is it I want to do with my life? What do I love to do? And how do I go about doing it? So that was the first decision. And that was to stay with Lorna Jane. That was to keep doing what I'm doing and not let all of the women who love us and support us and benefit from what we're doing miss out on something that they truly, truly love. So I decided to ignore the naysayers and keep moving forward. So I think a really strong message for women is to take the time, take 5 minutes every day. I know we're all busy, but take the time to think, what do I do? What do I want to do with my life? And what am I doing about it?
Is there one thing that you've always struggled with in your life?
As I said, I've had this question quite a lot. So I asked my mother, I rang her up and I said, Mum, people are asking me this question. Is there something that I've, been struggling with all my life? And it was really interesting because as she was telling me, I realized that it was true. And I started to cry, because, I'm going to get emotional, sorry, because it was really something that I hadn't totally realized. But as soon as she said it, I knew that it was true. And it was that she said, everyone, she's a mother. She said, darling, everyone has to struggle with something. And she said, even from a young age, as young as 4, you struggled with people being mean to you. She said, it wasn't that everyone was being mean to you, but I would see people saying nasty things about other people or maybe not including me in their playtime and things like that. And Mum said that I would go home and I would ask her why people were doing this, and she watched me struggle with this through my young ages from like 4 till 8. And her advice had always been like, you know what, you need to rise above it and pretend that it doesn't affect you and it'll go away. And I did that and it did help. But she says even now she sees me doing that. And she can see the hurt because she's my mother. I don't realize that people can see the hurt, but she says, I still say to her, why are people so mean? Why don't they just, concentrate on their own life and doing something positive with their life? And I guess I've still not overcome it, so I'm still struggling with it. But as an adult, you find tools to deal with it, and I'm not normally upset about it like I am now. It's just that, I had this conversation with Mum just last night, but it's amazing that the core things about your personality and things that you struggle with, you do carry through your life. And yes, you create things to overcome them, but they're still always there,
Do you think that we can still do this and have children at the same time?
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many successful women in business that have incredible families and family life as well. I mean, I just spent some time on Hamilton Island with Emma Isaacs. I mean, she goes between Sydney and LA. She has 4 children. She had her baby with her. She was breastfeeding between meetings. I mean, I know so many women who are powerhouses in business and have families.
How do you guys work and live together? Like, do you have any boundaries or things like that that have really worked for you over the years?
Well, his office is on one side of the building and mine's on the other. That works. Well, I guess going back to the very beginning, I started the business on my own. I think I was about 2 years in before Bill came on board. And he pretty much came on board because I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. I don't want to do all the serious stuff. I just want to design activewear and inspire women. And he said, well, how about I come on board and do all the stuff you don't want to do? How incredible is that? So that's how it started. And I surround myself with family. Yes, this is a global business, but I want it to feel like a family business. I don't want to go to work and be the boss.